Genesis 2, copied today, and this is what I came up with. The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, in verse 7, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So God created the human body out of the earth, formed it, breathed into the nostrils he created from the earth. Into it became life. And it says, then man became a living soul. So it makes me think that the soul was there before the body, and that a living soul is simply the soul encapsulated by life here in this world. So the soul exists, and it doesn't have boundaries, and it gets its boundaries by being pushed into the body. We are souls having an earthly experience. That's what that made me think of. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The tree of life existed right next to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It makes me think too that good and evil existed before man was on earth, which means there was a whole other thing going on, or is a whole other thing going on outside of our space and time. That's where you can talk about fallen angels and things like that. There has always been a battle of principalities of good and evil. Man was created, had no idea about it. And God said, you'll get an idea if you eat from that fruit, and if you do, you shall surely die. And that goes to verse 17. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Did man have a concept of death before he ate from the tree of the fruit of knowledge? Death must exist. He must have had some sort of idea of what it was. But because he had the tree of life, which he could freely eat from, and he had basically immortality before the fall, death was only some sort of concept. But when he ate from the tree of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, he became aware of death as well as many other things. I guess we'll see that in chapter 3. Lastly, I wanted to add to that I overlooked in Genesis 2. What I really found interesting is something kind of sweet. God showing a curiosity about what his creation will come up with. What will he do? What is he going to make of it? And it's verse 19, and out of the ground the Lord formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them, to see what he would come up with. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. It's kind of like an act of love. I have used the word to create all of this. Now I give you the word, and now I want you to create out of what I have given you. And whatever you come up with is what it is. It's kind of cute. It's like a dad giving his son a choice of something, and he creates from it. That's what it ends up being. I like it. I thought it was sweet. And then lastly, he caused the deep sleep on Adam. He loved Adam so much, he's like, it's not good for this guy to be alone. Everything has a mate. All these animals do, but there's nothing, no helpmate for Adam. So I'm going to create one for him. And not only did he create woman for Adam, but he created woman from Adam. So it wasn't like he was creating from some separate creative idea. He literally created the woman from the creation that he had already made, which is also an act of love, I think. It's, I'm going to make her yours. And that's really a beautiful thing. I guess we'll get this into chapter 3, but what I start to think now is when Eve made the mistake of heeding the voice of the serpent and falling into that temptation, it was actually also Adam at that very same time making that mistake, because the woman came from him. That's what I got just now on the top of my head. Dang, one other thing I wanted to say on this Genesis 2. There's so much. It's so thick and action-packed and philosophically interesting. The one thing I wanted to say was that I grew up talking about the Garden of Eden like it was just one thing, but it's the Garden of Eden, meaning there was something totally more than just a garden. It was a garden within a city, if you will, a garden within a town, a garden within something much larger. What is that larger thing? That's interesting, right?